everybody, here we are once again for another edition of the Mossy Oak Fishing Recap. This is stop number 5 of the Bassmaster Elite Series season, right here at Lake St. Clair, Detroit, Michigan. A place that's been pretty good to me in the past. Unfortunately here, but fortunately too a little bit. Another middle of the pack finish, finished up 47th here this week. You know, obviously not, this is like my 4th time here, I think, in the 7 years that I've been on the Elite Series. So not the finish that I wanted here, but still a really good finish in the grand scheme of things. You know, I talked about it over at the St. Lawrence event 2 events ago. You know, if your worst finishes throughout the year are still middle of the pack finishes, then at the end of the year, you're gonna be looking pretty good in AOY. So, you know, there's about 40 guys below me that I'm sure would trade with me right now gladly, so it's all good. We'll go on to the next one, but just to talk about how it unfolded for me. So this year, we were confined once again to the US side of Lake St. Clair. Of course, the Detroit River, the St. Clair River, and also we could go up into Lake Huron. Now, most of the time in the past here, so Lake St. Clair is different from any other smallmouth fishery. It's pretty much featureless. There's a little bit of grass out there. There's a little bit of rock in the lake, but not much at all. A little bit of gravel, but for the most part, it's just featureless out there, man. And you can go for miles without a bite if you don't get around them. But, you know, for the most part in the past here, I've always done most of my damage up in the river. I usually go up in the river, I devote my whole practice up there, but it's always been one in the lake when I've been here in the past. So this time, I really wanted to spend time in that lake and see if I could just use my Lowrance graphs, get out there, idle around, and figure out what those fish relate to out there, because they do relate to grass and stuff. Man, it's just so hard to figure out because it's such subtle differences in that grass. You're looking for little sand spots and things like that. And to be honest, I had one of the best practices I've ever had here. I mean, I had a couple of 22, maybe even 23 pound days out there on the lake, but once again, that's practice. That doesn't matter during the tournament. And my river stuff was looking really good in practice too. You know, I spent some time up there looking around at some of it and was really excited for the tournament. And you know, it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Just to give you an example, I run the first day of the tournament, there's a lighthouse 8 miles out into Lake St. Clair. I get out there and the Coast Guard's out there working on the lighthouse, beating and banging on it. So that just gives you an example of the kind of week I had. It just didn't work out, but like I said, it's all good. You guys know when I come to a smallmouth tournament, it's about the Ned rig, it's about the drop shot. And it was no different here this week. The time I spent up in the river, casting around at seawalls, current breaks, things like that, I was throwing a little 3/16 ounce mustad ball head with an X-Zone Lures Ned Zone. That color is actually called Minnow Magic. It's sort of a smoke with purple and gold flake. It's got some silver flake in it. A really good color. That's a really good color, and actually that's the same color I was throwing on my Slim Slammer as well, on my drop shot. That color, I think it really mimics the minnows here. There's not as many gobies on St. Clair. They key a lot more on minnows, so that color really matches the water well here. So that was the setup on the Ned rig, and then on my drop shot, this is pretty cool. I tried something new this week. So before I left home, I took a size number 2 mustad drop shot hook. That's the Titan X Wacky Nico hook, and I actually tied a little keeper on there. And so I usually use a size number 4 hook, and I just nose hook it. But I wanted to play around with that size 2 because it gets that hook on back in the bait, and you actually hook those fish a lot better, and you don't lose near as many. That size 4 does well, but that size 2, you almost never lose one if you hook it when you upsize that hook. Now, be careful with that because smallmouth are real finicky. So on a day like today when it's super calm, you might want to still use that size 4, but play around with that size 2 and try threading that bait on there, because when you stick one, he rarely ever comes off. A 3/8 ounce mustad tungsten drop shot weight. Both setups, 10 pound vicious, no fade, yellow braid, 10 pound with an 8 pound vicious Pro Elite fluorocarbon leader. Same setup as the last 3 tournaments, but you know, like I said, another middle of the pack finish. I think I'm 22nd in AOY right now. So we're still looking good, still rolling, having a good season. Can't wait to get back down south. The next tournament I'm gonna fish, I think, is an open on Hartwell, and then the next Elite Series tournament is actually right back on Guntersville. So looking forward to that. Gonna go spend a little bit of time down there before it goes off limits, and looking forward to wrapping this thing up back down south. But thank you all for the support. As always, I'll see you next time right here on the Mossy Oak Fishing Recap.